So it's Thursday again somehow, and it's time to talk about legacy markets. Legacy markets are important to pay attention to right now because they've been so correlated with crypto price action, whether or not people want to admit that or not. Mainly because BTC is largely a risk-on vehicle right now. SPX, NASDAQ are also risk-on vehicles. But oddly enough, gold, a risk-off vehicle, is also highly correlated with crypto right now, perhaps showing the full power of the everything bubble that's going on. So if we get into some of the stats behind this stuff, if we look at the correlations, we have BTC at the top here with the 30-week rolling correlation for gold, XAU USD, and it's essentially sitting at all-time highs, very close to 99, 95, 100% correlation, positive correlation. If we look at the orange here, 30-week rolling correlation between BTC USD and the dollar index DXY, sitting near all-time lows for a negative correlation, almost negative 90%. So together this says if Dixie goes down, BTC should go up. They should act together. If gold goes up, BTC should go up together. So it's worth taking a look at those charts as well. And then finally, if we look at the VIX, the volatility index, VIX, historically peaks in the VIX, spikes in the VIX, have been dips in crypto, BTC specifically, but have also been excellent buying opportunities over a long period of time. So if we look at all these spikes to 30 prior to March, they've all been long-term profitable buys. You know, this is probably the weakest case for a long-term profitable buy, but every other buy, every other dip low has been extremely profitable over a long period of time. If you look at the current situation, March on crypto-wide was the dip, right? It correlated almost one-to-one with the spike in the VIX. So long as the VIX continues to decay, decline, go back to zero, crypto will be incredibly bullish off of that. It will react in a very positive way, as it has since inception. If we can get some sort of coronavirus vaccine or coronavirus treatment that's effective, which may or may not happen within months or years from now, the VIX should continue to decline faster than it is. If the opposite becomes true, which is currently the case if we get a massive second wave, if there's a global increase in cases, the VIX may not like that, and we may see a spike up in the VIX again, bearish for stocks, bullish, bearish for crypto as well. So just some little things to consider on the macro scale. If you look at ETH is the same as BTC as far as the correlations are concerned. There has never been a higher period of 30-day rolling correlations with the SPX or the NASDAQ, orange and blue here, when compared to ETH historically. It has never been this positively correlated with both of those markets ever. So again, very important to look at those markets individually and say, how bullish are these markets? Clearly BTC and ETH are bullish right now. How bullish are those markets? And again, if we look at the VIX stuff, it's identical. You know, dip here, dip here, dip here. So this wasn't a great buy long term, but for the most part, these dips have correlated very highly with legacy. If you think back to the November, December 2018 fall in crypto, it was also very highly correlated with legacy as well. So let's look at some of these markets individually. If we look at gold USD, extremely strong bullish trend over the past few years on cloud. You can see it's above the cloud, bullish TK across, all that stuff. The main concern in the near term is this TK disequilibrium on the weekly, which says price is overbought, which it is. There's also a bearish divergence here. You're getting higher highs on less volume. So it wouldn't surprise me for gold to sort of reconsolidate, test 1750, something like that, test this yearly pivot, and then make a decision from there. If we get a stimulus package in the US pre or after January, pre-post January, gold should see a mega spike because the dollar should suffer. So far, that's sort of been the case. So gold, obviously bullish. If we look at the daily gold chart, very reminiscent of the ETH daily chart in that price consolidated. It went neutral after the strong bull trend. It's now in the decision-making process. Will this get a bullish TK recross above the cloud or a bullish Kumo breakout? Or will it retest prior support at 1750. So that's an if this then that situation. If this does break out, then you'd expect BTC and ETH to have strong breakouts to the upside as well. If we get a stimulus, this should break to the upside. If we get a stimulus, BTC and ETH should strongly react to that as well. So all this stuff is sort of intertwined. If you look at silver, same story, extremely strong reaction since March, and looks like it needs to relax a little bit around 2021 bullish TK, or sorry, TKC clamp here suggesting overbought conditions. No real divergence on that per se. It's kind of retraced from the highs anyway. But there was no bearish divergence here. It was just clearly just, insane, right? Something I haven't looked at in a while is actually the daily SPX. This is using crypto settings, so don't be mad at me for that. But SPX also setting up for a bullish TK recross above the cloud. I did a quick back test on that. It looks like 100% of the bullish TK recrosses above the cloud have led to bullish continuation. Not a shocker there, because the market, historically, the SPX over the past 50 years has been bullish. Like, that's just the market. So it's not a shocker that the bullish stats are that high. But if the correlations with BTC and ETH are as high as they are, and SPX is this bullish still, you would expect highs for both. If risk on is still the case, regardless of the November election, bullish continuation is expected. You can argue probably a cup and handle here as well, which is also bullish continuation. Just several flavors and shades of bullish continuation. Looking at NASDAQ, it's already had its bullish TK recross above the cloud. You can see it's actually crisscrossed a few times at this point. Again, a quick eyeball backtest was near 100% of bullish TK recrosses above the cloud have led to bullish continuation. And you can see just how strong NASDAQ has been since June. If you compare it to the SPX barely made new highs. NASDAQ is just surging, right? It's surged, it's retraced, reconsolidated. It's in the decision-making process actively right now as far as, does this have strength to continue? It looks as though it does, but anytime I see the TK lines cross like this over and over, crisscross, the value of the individual cross drops dramatically, right? Because it just says prices trendless sideways. The EMAs aren't sure, price isn't sure. So this honestly looks less bullish to me than perhaps a bullish TK recross on SPX would look, which looks inevitable. The bullish cross on gold, though, if that happens with Kumo breakout, I mean, that should guarantee higher highs. Then lastly, if we look at the dollar, the DXY, again, one of these hyper correlated, in this case inverse correlated to BTC and ETH. Dixie is experiencing a bearish TK recross above the cloud potentially over the next few days, over the next couple weeks, which is the most bearish signal you can get on the cloud system. If a bullish TK recross is the most bull signal you can get, bearish TK recross below the cloud is the most bearish signal. It says that the trend consolidated, right? We had our bear trend reconsolidated, couldn't break up. It's ready for another round of bear move. That's what's being projected here by price failing to break into the cloud, and then the bearish TK recross potentially occurring again over the next couple of days. So to see this is just another shade and flavor of bullishness for BTC. And as far as the lows, we could see 88 again on Dixie, especially if a stimulus is passed. The big wild card here is the November election in the US, and to what degree it's contested, to what degree we have an outcome that's certain, at least by mid-November. The more uncertainty we have, the more that will spook the market. The more contested the election is, the more that will spook the market. But Trump or Biden will be bullish for the markets simply because of the stimulus, the inevitable stimulus that will come within the next 3 months, I'd imagine. So all this stuff is still lining up as bullish in BTC and ETH are now. I mean, all this stuff is still lining up for an incredible continuation of this bull strength over the next 6 months. Honestly, like this stuff, if what I think is going to happen with the stimulus, really, again, the big wild cards are coronavirus and election. And if we can put those two behind us somehow within the next 3 months, macro picture should be even more crystal clear. Dixie should go just to the core, right? If Dixie breaks 88, I mean, we're seeing all-time highs in BTC. It's that simple. We're seeing all-time highs in NASDAQ and SPX again. Gold and silver are going to continue to break to the upside. People are going to flee the dollar. So all this still looks incredibly bullish to me. We'll continue to follow it, obviously, through the election here on a weekly basis. And I advise everybody to do the same, honestly, even if you're not a US citizen or care about US markets. They're just so correlated with crypto right now. It's definitely worth taking a look.